It's time for the 1430 Connection on 1430 WNAV and 99.9 FM, spotlighting news, newsmakers, and important community issues. Now, with this week's edition of the 1430 Connection, here is WNAV news anchor Donna Cole.
Welcome to the 1430 Connection. I'm Donna Cole. In the studio with me today is Rona Kobell of the Maryland Sea Grant. She's a science writer and editor, extensive background in journalism, focusing a lot on the environment, certainly with the Chesapeake Bay Journal prior to starting work with Maryland Sea Grant, and prior to that at the Baltimore Sun. And Eric Buehl, he is a regional restoration specialist for Maryland Sea Grant and an extension agent. He works in 5 counties in the mid and upper eastern shore. Thank you both for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did I explain that correctly, Eric?
Yes, you did. You did a great job.
Okay, first, so we understand what Maryland Sea Grant is. Rona?
Maryland Sea Grant College was founded in the 70s, I believe the early 70s, and we have 33 Sea Grants throughout the country and in coastal areas, like Puerto Rico has one. So what Maryland Sea Grant College does is we basically take marine science and get it out to the people. So we work in the areas of aquaculture. The work that Eric does is watershed restoration, so getting the science of how runoff works out to people so they can do things like plant rain gardens, plant trees, put in cisterns, all kinds of things to reduce the pollution footprint. We also have people who help grow oysters. We have people who help with aquaculture ponds. So it's all different ways of getting the best science that we learn at the universities of Maryland out to the people who have jobs that are essentially coastal or coastal related businesses.
And Maryland Sea Grant is headquartered at the University of Maryland, correct?
Yes, we're University of Maryland College Park. That's our main office.
And laboratories?
We have 4 laboratories. There's the IMET laboratory in Baltimore. We have the Appalachian laboratory out in Frostburg, Solomons, the Chesapeake Biological Laboratory in Solomons, and the Horn Point laboratory out near Cambridge.
Obviously, each of those is focused on a different sciences.
Yes.
Okay.
They are. So
and which IMET, is that?
Institute for Marine Environmental Technology. Okay. That's at the Columbus Center next to the aquarium at the harbor. The big kind of white funky building that looks like it has wings.
Yes.
That's the Columbus Center. Yes.
All right. And do you get to go around to all of these and write cool stories about them?
Not as much as I would like to, but that's the goal. I fortunately, in my previous role at the Bay Journal, I have been to all of them, and in my role since I've been at Sea Grant, I have gotten to IMET and I've gotten to Frostburg. I have gotten to Horn Point.
Yeah, I was about to say, Horn Point has some cool stuff going on.
They definitely do. I have not yet been to Solomons. Sorry, Tom Miller. I will be there soon. I'm looking forward to some stories there.
Dolphins at which? That's
Solomons. Chesapeake Biological Lab is doing the dolphins, and that has been a huge success. The Dolphin app, people just love to photograph the dolphins, and there's this question: are we seeing more dolphins in the Chesapeake Bay, or are we just noticing them more?
That kind of goes back to this conversation we had before we started with the snowy owls, right?
Right. Because everybody's hyper aware now because of the app, and they're all excited to photograph their dolphins and put them online. Eric's been on the shore a lot longer than I have. I think dolphins have always been with us, but I do think we're seeing more. They're coming for food, but I don't know if it's as much more as we think it is, just because now we're more aware.
And we have more digital cameras than we used to. We all walk around with a digital camera on us now when we're in our phones.
That's right. Yeah.
But it is cool to see all these dolphins. Eric, have you seen them out in the field the field being the Chesapeake Bay?
Yeah. No, I haven't seen them lately. I don't get out on the bay as often as I'd like to. I've been out a couple of times and seen them over the years, but not this season.
Oh, and a shark, a recent big shark.
Oh, yes, that was a fun one. A longtime waterman, Boo Powley, who pound nets for Menhaden, caught a bull shark.
Huge.
And it was bigger than he was by a long shot. And yeah, that was, he caught it in his net. It was what we call bycatch, but that was a heck of a bycatch. Usually your bycatch is like, a few turtles or something. So yeah, it was quite something. So, and we have always had sharks in the bay. It's just that people weren't aware of them in the past.
Right. We don't see them often. They stay on the bottom of the bay a lot of times, and, a bycatch is where we find them. But at any given time, you do have scientists out there studying so many different facets of our Chesapeake Bay and beyond.
Oh, yes. We have somebody recently studying the effect of mosquitoes. A lot of people don't want to, some of the work that Eric does is putting in rain gardens and kind of, collecting the water at the source. And some people are afraid to do that because of mosquitoes. And so we actually went out and studied, do mosquitoes congregate more at rain gardens than if you don't have a rain garden or rain barrel? And we found that they don't. And we're hoping that will encourage homeowners associations and the like to go for these water conservation efforts and also pollution control efforts, and not to be afraid of mosquitoes. We are doing a huge research project on the Conowingo Dam to figure out the interplay between sediments, grasses, pollution. That research is ongoing. We have all kinds of projects going on. I just did a really neat story with everybody in the story, the scientist, the photographer, the writer, the graphic artist, the geneticist, all women involved in the story.
Power.
And it's about a species of grass called vallisneria that seems to be really a utility hitter for restoring grasses because it can withstand heat, it can withstand waves. It seems to do better than eelgrass in the hotter areas of the bay. So we are interested really in all kinds of science and the practical applications of that science.
All right, Eric's going to think we're ignoring him.
No, not at all.
So we're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back and talk to Eric. This is 1430 Connection. We will be right back. Welcome back to the 1430 Connection. I'm Donna Cole. In the studio with me today is Rona Kobell of the Maryland Sea Grant. She's a science writer and editor. And Eric Buehl. He's a regional restoration specialist and extension agent working with Maryland Sea Grant. Now, tell me what you do, Eric. You're over on the Eastern Shore. Many of our listeners are on the Eastern Shore.
Sure. I work out of the Y Research and Education Center in Queenstown and cover the 5 counties.
Where is it?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's in Queenstown.
No, I heard that part, but where exactly? Because I'm trying to figure it out.
Okay. It's I think it's the first flashing light on Route 50 before you get to Chesapeake College. You turn right and you go out towards Y Island.
Okay.
And the Research Education Center's been located back there for many years.
Near the cows?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, the cows is part of the research farm that's out there. So
right.
that's part of it.
Near Arthur Houghton's bull semen.
Yeah,
that's where you turn.
Perfect.
So that's where there's a group of researchers in the University of Maryland, as well as extension specialists and agents work out of that office, and that's where I'm located. It's just centrally located in the 5 counties. I cover from the Choptank River north up to Cecil County, the Pennsylvania line.
So you're the guy out there telling people, organizations, individuals, communities, how they can better the Chesapeake Bay.
Yeah, the program that I represent, there are 5 specialists that work statewide, and they range in the entire Chesapeake Bay watershed, and we're strategically located so that we're able to respond to the communities. We don't go in and say, hey, we're here to help you solve this problem. We're usually asked to come in, and we bring in information and resources to increase their capacity. Over on the shore, a lot of the counties and towns that I work with don't have a lot of staff, so I'm able to help connect them to grants, to fund projects, as well as help them calculate load reductions on nutrients and sediment. Help to foster partnerships is another thing that we do. We work in a number of groups and committees and settings, and because of that, we may know of another group that has a similar interest. So sometimes we try to get groups to work together, and you get that multiplier effect.
So community comes in, their shoreline's eroding, they want to figure out what to do. They can call you up and say, is that some?
Yeah. Sometimes we get involved with shoreline restoration projects. The Maryland Department of Natural Resources has a really strong program that works in that. So usually what will happen is we may go out, or I may go out and do just kind of like a meeting with the landowner and say, you may want to follow up with the department because they have different programs that have like a loan program. They have specialists that can come out and evaluate it. Sometimes if it's something that the landowner wants to do, we may help them along the way. But while we're out there, we may talk talk to them about, like Rona said, are there things they can do around their house? Because sometimes the shoreline erosion is actually coming from the land side and not necessarily the water. So are there downspouts directed? Can they be directed over grass instead of right, along the bank? Can they put buffers in? Can they use a rain barrel or a rain garden to reduce the amount of runoff? And in the process, are not only are they fixing their shoreline, but they're able to help reduce the nutrients and sediment getting into the bay. So it's a win-win.
So let's say, let's talk about nitrogen, because you're at a place where there's a bunch of cows, which means there's a bunch of cow poop.
Yes.
There's farmers. There's lots of farms on the Eastern Shore. Do you help? Go ahead.
So that's the nature of extension. There is an extension office in all 24 counties in Maryland and in Baltimore City, and they have specialists that work there that are based on the needs of that community. So in I believe every county there is an agricultural specialist, an agent that works directly with the farmers. They'll have nutrient management specialists there that are helping to figure out the crop fertility needs. In some of the more populous counties, there are family and consumer science specialists that deal with financial literacy and healthy living. There are 4-H programs. That's an extension program, and they're in all the counties, and that's youth development. And then I'm in environment and natural resources. And so I'm a specialist because there's not a need for me in every office or my coworkers.
Well, that's good for you.
Yeah, exactly. So I get to travel around a little bit. So for the farmers, what they would do is they would contact their local extension office and say,
find the
here's what's
person.
going on. And quite often there's a lot of coordination between the State Department of Agriculture, the local Soil and Water Conservation District, as well as the Natural Resources Conservation Service. So it's a lot of people working together on rather complicated issues, because cow poop is not an easy thing to deal with sometimes.
We're going to take a short break. When we come back, more about what Eric has done on the Eastern Shore. This is Donna Cole on the 1430 Connection. We will be right back. Welcome back to the 1430 Connection. I'm Donna Cole. I'm in the studio today with Rona Kobell of Maryland Sea Grant. She's a science writer and editor, and her coworker, Eric Buehl. He's a regional restoration specialist and extension agent working for Maryland Sea Grant over on the Eastern Shore. Give me some projects that you have helped with on the Eastern Shore.
Sure. Well, recently I was called out to provide some technical assistance to some homeowners. The Homeowners Association was dealing with some water quality issues in the pond, and in kind of the traditional extension way, we go out, we do a bit of an assessment, and where are the stressors coming from on the pond? It was a shallow pond, had a lot of algae in it and things like that, but some of it was the natural grasses. So the idea is there's going to be no silver bullet for them to clean up their pond, so I left them information on soil testing, the use of lawn fertilizers, things like that, and they've got some other options that they need to explore. But that's one of the things that I do on a rather frequent basis, is go out and meet with landowners one-on-one.
So the pond was looking rather green.
Yes, and a lot of them are. As I was driving over, and I guess I was right around Queenstown, I looked down and saw one that looked very similar to their pond as well. So it's just been a hot summer. We had a lot of rain in the spring. What gets put on the land as far as fertilizers got washed off this spring, and so there's plenty of nutrients in there to fuel the algae. But I was recently over with Queen Anne's County during a meeting where they're talking about their upcoming plans. Every year or two, they're required to put together a plan to help do the bay cleanup, the total maximum daily load, or the TMDL as it's called. And so the county is in the process of doing that. And I've made myself available to them as a resource if they'd like. And so what a lot of the counties on the shore are doing, and I believe it's a bit of a statewide issue as they try to clean up the bay, what they're looking at is properties that are easy to work on and to do projects on. So they look at various parks, public recreation areas, and things like that to implement projects that will deal with the stormwater runoff, shoreline erosion, eroding stream banks, and things. In fact, driving over to the station, I just saw down the hill on, was it Admiral Drive, right down here, that they're doing the stream restoration project. Cowhide Branch.
This street used to be called Cowhide Road or Drive. Speaking of cows. Yeah, that's Cowhide.
So that's a project that's fairly typical that myself and my coworkers may get involved with in trying to find grant funding and kind kind of connecting the partners onto these stream restoration projects, or putting in the different rain gardens, or the larger version of a rain garden as a biofiltration facility, and just kind of, again, taking a look at where these can go and what communities, the resources that they need.
Rain gardens are super helpful. Obviously, we now know that mosquitoes are not attracted just to rain gardens, and it's not a thing. But that is something that our homeowners along the Chesapeake anywhere can do to help.
Sure. There's a number of resources. Our website through University of Maryland Extension, all you got to do is put in watershed protection, and we've got information on rain gardens there.
And the website is?
It is extension.umd.edu/watershed.
That's good. You didn't know I was going to be asking that.
No. I go to it on occasion. And there's a lot of resources there. We even have something called the SMART tool, S-M-A-R-T, the Stormwater Management and Restoration Tracker. And this was designed to capture those smaller practices, the rain barrels, the rain gardens, the conservation plantings, and anybody can go in and use it. It's currently being really kind of beta tested in Howard County and in Talbot County, but anybody can use it. I've got a rain barrel that's in there waiting to get inspected, and if you know a little bit of information like the area that drains to it, and you can go and use sizing tools, you can put a picture in of your practice, whether it's a rain barrel or a rain garden. And the idea behind this is number one, people really feel like that they're making a difference in the Bay. They went out and did something, and they want recognition for it. Yeah. But on the back side of this, what looks like just a mapping program is there's some computations that occur, and it says you've reduced, nitrogen or phosphorus or sediment by so many pounds going to the Bay. And then ultimately, when we get enough of them, the counties will have access to that information. Now, they won't see landowner information, but they'll know that maybe in the College Creek watershed, 35 rain barrels went in, and they're able to take credit for that as part of the Bay cleanup.
That's really cool.
Yep. And that's a SMART tool, and you could probably just Google that or go to our website again, and there's a link to it, and it's pretty neat.
All right, volunteers with you out in the field or with the organization, Rona, are they needed? How do people help?
Well, for sure, with what Eric's doing, we have a really cool program called the Watershed Stewards Academy, where Eric and his colleagues, I think the first one was in Anne Arundel County, and now there's one in Cecil, Hartford, St. Mary's has one, right?
Yep.
And you're working...
Howard County, and then Maryland National Capital that serves the Anacostia River watershed.
Right. So what this is sort of a super volunteer, where you go through a training program, and you learn how to put in practices like rain gardens and rain barrels and even stream restorations. There was a person in the Anne Arundel one who did a huge multi-million-dollar project. She got grants for it, and she it was behind a church here, a stream. And so they go and train others in their community to do stream cleanups and this kind of thing. Yeah, so it's that is a great way for people to volunteer.
And information on that is available where?
Yeah, so Anne Arundel's program starts every year. So they're actually starting a new class this October. And there's information on their website, which is aawsa.org, Anne Arundel Watershed Stewards Academy. That's all you got to search for, and that starts. You do have to fill out an application. There's a fee for it, and it runs about a 12-month program. By the time they go through all the classes, do their capstone, and then go out and do individual projects.
So you see some retirees in this. Is that where?
I work with the one in Cecil County, and by the way, Queen Anne County residents are eligible to participate in the program. It's just it's a bit of a drive from Queenstown up to Elkton,
but not far for Queen Anne's over to Anne Arundel if they want.
No, not at all. The age varies. We have some young people that are in there that just want to learn some new skills. We've got some older folks that are retired or that are working that want to give back to their community and things like that. I will say that we are kind of in the early discussions about maybe having one on the Midshore, Watershed Stewards Academy. So if they check our website, in a few months or something like that, we hope to have more information.
Perfect.
Sometimes just a light bulb goes off and somebody realizes, oh, I can do something. How do I do it? What do I do? And they become interested. It seemed from the articles that have been written about the Watershed Stewards Academy, that's actually quite a few young people who are maybe looking for a career in environmental Similar to the Master Naturalist program. I mean,
Yeah.
it is a commitment.
But it's not a bad way to put your toe in the water, so to speak, to try it out, to see if this is the career.
Yeah, and each of the programs is a little bit different. They all learn about soils. They learn about stormwater runoff, native plants. They learn about community engagement.
How long
and
is the
things.
training?
So it's usually about 16 or so classes spread out over probably about 6 months. Each one's a little bit different, and then they have where they work together on a class project, and then ultimately they go out in groups and do a capstone project. And they learn, how to go out into their community, do the assessment, and then make recommendations to their neighbors. That was the whole kind of genesis of the program. Was there's just not enough people to go out into every subdivision and try to get these great things
Right.
done.
Thank you both for joining me today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
This is Donna Cole. This is the 1430 Connection. We will see you next week.